Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships for our Saturday upgrade and commander build video on the Devastation. I'm going to feature what I'd normally done the Friday highlight of this boat on Monday. But for today, we're just going to do our standard upgrade and commander build video. And I'm going to talk about, I think, two build options you could do with Devastation. I'm sure there's, you could tinker with a few other things. But I think there's two you could possibly pull off with this boat rather easily. So, with that being said, let's get into it. So what kind of battleship is the Super Battleship, the British Devastation? Well, it's a mid-range to long range. Mid-range being like, let's say 12 to 15. And then you can play a little bit further away at times if needed. You have a super heal that really helps you out. But of course, you do need to be mindful that you just don't overextend yourself and just get focused down really fast. But as long as you got your heals, then you're quite difficult to kill. I'll get into that. When we get into the armor scheme, you have excuse me, a lot of 32 covering your ship, especially on the deck. It doesn't go up on the midsection. You come down to the armor belt. It's a 432, 369. And then a 364. So there are certain cruisers you'll be playing and you'll pop right up on a Devastation thinking, I'm in a cruiser, like I'm close enough I can pin through and get full pins or citadels, and you just get non-pins because you are not going to be able to pin through this 432 millimeter. So be mindful of that. If something more like a battle cruiser or something a little more heavier caliber as a cruiser, then sure. But like, if you're like 150s, 152s, 155s, whatever, it's like, yeah, no, you're not going to get through that. So you also have this 63 millimeter icebreaker. So it's kind of a little bit interesting in how they extended some of the armor. But otherwise, that's what you have. Let's look at the Citadel, and then we'll look at the main battery armor. So it's still the 432. It is an exposed Citadel. And then pretty much extends pretty normally from the forward main battery turret to the rear main battery turret. So I've been Citadel'd. I think I was angled like this, and I ate some 510s. I think sometimes people are cheeky and they come through the back door or the front door, if you will. Not quite like the cheek Citadel that you have on Yamato, but if they have a large enough caliber, it's definitely possible. Especially, I haven't tried it on Devastation, but going through this specific back door with the flat, it's not going to ricochet because it's not round. You can sail right into the Citadel, if you will. If you have, I would think something like maybe a 254 and up, maybe. I think I've done it with Stalingrad on Conqueror version, but other than that, so let's talk about the main battery turrets. So you have 406 on the front, which drops to 254 to 178 to 178 to 178. So the back and rear sides and top of your turrets are the weakest. Because they're not like angled turrets, they do catch. So you have to be mindful of that. Like, it's not just going to ricochet if a larger caliber shell hits. I've had my main battery turrets incapacitated, not permanently, just I think of the like 15 or so games I've played with the ship so far, maybe 2 or 3 times. But that's usually because it catches the rear or the back of my turret when I'm sailing. So just be mindful of that. All right, this is going to be a pretty standard build. The alternative build, I think it's possible to pull off with the ship. I haven't tested it out myself. I'll talk about as well. But first, getting into the modules. So you have 16 419 millimeter guns, where Conqueror, which we might kind of like reference here and there, has 12 419. So you get a longer reload time, 33.4 versus Conqueror's 26.4, and that's with main battery mod 3 on both ships in the 6th slot. So you have a longer shell switching time because of that. If you take gun feeder, 180 degree turn time of 43.1, maximum HE shell damage 7,200, maximum AP shell damage 13,000. The hull itself, the big thing that Devastation reigns over Conqueror with is having a larger hit point pool. So when you go, you have 99,800 hit points versus 87,050 hit points, and then you stack your India Delta, On top of that, or sorry, Charlie Kilo, you go to 104,800. So like kind of think of it as a Conqueror with over 100,000 hit points. You're really hard to kill, especially if the heal's stronger here on Devastation. I'll get into that potent heal when we talk about the consumables. And then your gunfire control system, you have a main battery range of 24.5, and that's without building into the range at all. I don't think it's needed to build into the gun range in the 6th slot. Like that's kind of no, it just there's no point in doing it. It's 24.5. If you were playing, you want to play beyond 24.5, I'd just be like, why? I mean, with 24.5, if you have a CV spotting the enemy spawn, you know, after you've moved up a little bit, enemy team's moved up a little bit, you could actually pop shots off quite early, and I mean, maybe get an early fire, something like that. Propulsion, 30.5 knots. If you do take Serial Mic, you'll get up to 32. So that's helpful. But I think with what I've been doing, I have been running without it. In terms of the upgrades, so we take the main armaments mod 1. This reduces the risk of our main battery becoming incapacitated by -20% and improves the main battery survivability by +50%, and main battery repair time -20%. So we're just trying to focus on keeping our primary armaments in action as much as possible. You do have auxiliary armaments mod 1. That's just for secondaries and AA. You have a damage control party mod 1 plus 40%, but your damage control party, it's standard. For a battleship, it's a 15-second DCP. One of the commander perks I have boosted to up to 16.5. It's a 10% boost, I believe. So you can get this, I think it's like it'd go to 22 seconds or something. So that is a possible option if you want a longer lasting DCP. It's helpful when you're maybe dealing with submarine pings, so you want to have the fire a little longer, something like that, or you thought you won't catch fire. So it's a possibility. For now, I've leaned most to main armaments mod 1. Second slot, you're going to take the damage control system mod 1. This reduces risk of catching fire by -5%, risk of flooding -3%. You have injury protection as well, but I think I've only once had my steering gears or engine knocked out. I think it's the steering gears, and that was because of a torpedo. Otherwise, you know, damage control system mod 1 is the best route to go. Aiming systems mod 1, I'll put it on the right side of the screen here. You take this to help with your main battery shell dispersion. So even though you have 16 guns, I don't remember how it compares to the Sigma. I think Sigma's almost the same as Conqueror, but I don't remember with the horizontal and vertical dispersion compared to Conqueror. So I have preferred taking this to get a little bit tighter shell groupings because the shells feel a little bit more of a dispersion compared to Conqueror. I have to double check that. So I have just liked tighter shell groupings. Like there was a Halvarosk, I shot, you know, took 16k out of him. He was like, you know, 76 kilometers away. There was a Fletcher yesterday. I death struck him 15,000 hit points, and he was, I think, 12 or 13 kilometers away. So the high explosive smacks. So I like having the tighter shell grouping, and then I got a death strike on an aircraft carrier and things like that. So just having the tighter shell groupings is quite appreciative, in my opinion. Otherwise, you know, you could talk about the main battery mod 2 just to improve that turret traverse time, because it is 43.1, which is a bit rough. I think with my Conqueror build, I have it down, and that's actually the same, 41.4. So yeah, so it can be a bit of a bummer sometimes to not have your turrets turning as fast, but I think to me the improved dispersion outweighs the cost of just having a few longer seconds on your main battery turret traverse. Fourth slot is the damage control system mod 2. This is reducing your fire extinguishing time by -15% and flooding recovery time by -15%. Essentially, this build, I'm going to show you a slightly different one in a little bit. This is like the tank build, okay? I'll probably say it again in case people are using the timestamps below. I've had 2 games now. One game, I took this 296,000 damage, still lived at the end of the battle. And then another game, a couple games later after that, I took 299,000 damage and was still alive at the end of the battle. Like, you can tank a lot of damage or be abused. That's the way you want to look at it. Be abused a lot in terms of being focus fired, and just kind of being this tank for your team that's really hard to kill, and the enemy team's really focusing you a lot versus perhaps other teammates. So I'll circle back to that one though. Fifth slot, Concealment System Mod 1. You go for full conceal, 13.1, which fits well with that mid main battery range of, like, let's say 12 to 15. I think I try to play a little bit more closer to, like, let's say 13 to 15 at various points, just so I can play off the conceal. I can go dark. So I'm probably, maybe I'm more actively at 14 to 16. And then I push in when the time comes, and I can get a bit closer as well. So having concealment is the best in terms of your fifth slot. Sixth slot, main battery mod 3, reduces your main battery reload time by -12, your main battery traverse speed -13%. So I've liked this the best. I don't see any need to extend your main battery firing range or to build into your AA or secondaries. This is the one you want to go for. In terms of your armament, so you have a 33.4 second reload time. I think between the Conqueror and Devastation, one of the things I actually like about the Conqueror a little bit more is, yes, I don't have 16 guns, you get 12 guns instead, but having that faster reload time is actually really helpful when you're catching ships go broadside, turning in and turning out. Overall, the DPM of the high explosive armor piercing between Conqueror and Devastation is almost the same. Devastation has just a tiny bit more, but it's nothing like really to write home about, just because of that faster reload time. So I do kind of miss that aspect with Conqueror over Devastation, but I'm going to get into that and talking about another build as well. I keep foreshadowing, I gotta stop that. So these are 419, 7,200 maximum damage. You can increase the fire chance from 48% to 50%. I do recommend doing that. You are a fire starter. You can easily farm a lot of damage with Devastation. She's meant to set fires. That's what she does best. Even though I had a couple salvos on the Shikishima yesterday, I wasn't setting any fires. It's like, what the heck's going on? But 50% chance on a battleship's really good, and that's what the British Battleship line is known for. In terms of the armor piercing, they do 13,000, so you can wreck. I mean, you're throwing 16 419 millimeter AP shells through the air. So, I mean, you can wreck broadside targets, whether we're talking about cruisers, we're talking about battleships, we're talking about aircraft carriers, you know, subs and destroyers. You should be firing high explosive at if possible. But you wreck some of those larger targets, certainly. Like, there's a new test cruiser, Japanese cruiser, and we wrecked him yesterday with armor piercing. So you can catch people off guard with Devastation. That's one of the fun things about this boat, because people expect you to fire a lot of high explosive like you do with Conqueror, and they get really shocked when you fire armor piercing, and that kind of sets you apart in terms of being, like, let's say a beginner to intermediate player, more into a veteran player, like when you exercise using your armor piercing and on targets, and not just only high explosive with this boat line. Depth charge airstrike, 30-second reload time. You have 11-kilometer range. You get 2 flights, 1 attacking aircraft per flight, and you get 2 bombs in said payload. So the 11-kilometer range is good, very helpful. But I mean, it's always good if you can utilize this when you're dealing with the subs. I had a sub try to shotgun me the other day, and it's like, no, they took that out of the game, bud. You can't do that anymore. So we use a lot of our depth charges, and we smack the hell out of them with our high explosive. Consumable wise, damage control party, 16.5, cooldown time, 80 seconds. We talked about possibly being able to build it out a little bit longer. I think this puts you up closer to maybe like 20 seconds, something like that. And then you have your specialized repair teams, which is an even bigger flex over Conqueror. So let me show you. So if we click on Conqueror, I think I have India Delta right now. 1,741, 2,096. So if I come into Conqueror and I put India Delta on, you see 2,089. We come in Devastation, smack it on, 2,515. So you have a bigger heal than what you have on the Conqueror. So you're really potent to deal with. So there's times like I just I'm just letting the fires burn, so I get my adrenaline rush. So I have a bit faster reload time. and then you can come back to full health. Like, I think the video I'm showcasing you on Monday, it was also an arms race, but it's like I push a heal and then I'm back to basically full health after utilizing the adrenaline rush for a bit. So we have an action time of 22 seconds, helpful 80-second cooldown time, and we can actually get a 5th and a 6th heal with how we have Andrew Cunningham set up on our commander. So I'll talk about that as well, because otherwise you start off with 3 heals, but we took, what is that called? I keep forgetting. Emergency repair expert. So we go from 3 heals to 4 heals here. Signal wise, I do something like this. So if I take November Foxtrot, it's giving me a faster cooldown time on the damage control party, so from 80 to 76, and from 80 to 76 on the specialized repair teams. This synchronizes quite well with the commander build, which I'm about to show you. And then reducing the fire extinguishing time, or improving the fire extinguishing time and flooding time, so negative 20%, so we're putting out the fires and floods faster. Possible we might find ourselves in a ramming situation. So plus 50% causing damage to ramming an enemy, negative 20% when an enemy is ramming us, improving our fire chance. So the one thing I would really like actually is to be able to run CR Mike to get up to the 32 knots. So just be mindful that you're not the fastest battleship on the block. Your speed's kind of meh for a tier 10 battleship. Alright, commander-wise, so how do you get Andrew Cunningham? Let's take a moment to talk about him. Andrew Cunningham, you can pick up in the armory for 175,000 coal. So we'll see how fast this loads. It seems to be going rather fast today, so that's good. So coming down here, he'd be 475,000 coal. He's an outstanding British admiral, fought in the Anglo-Boer War, the First, Second World Wars, and participated in the Russian Civil War. Yada, yada, yada. But some of the things he has is quite helpful is in terms of his talents and enhanced skills. So, particularly its talents is what we want to focus in on here. So one is the Ruthless talent, and this activates upon earning the Witherer achievement, which, funny enough, I earned Witherer as I had a fire ticking after I had already died. So it's like I didn't get to use it, but I've been able to use it, I think, 2 other times, where your main battery reload time drops by negative 10%. Which is like insanely good. So you go from a 33.4 to just, what, 30 second reload time. So that's really helpful, but you have to farm targets and get fires out of them. So know that that's very important. So you have to focus on exhausting, if you set a fire on a battleship and then he DCPs it, you don't just necessarily switch fire to a different target. You shoot him again, so then you get a permanent fire. So you want to try to farm a Witherer early on in the game, whether you have Andrew Cunningham on Conqueror, Lian, or here in Devastation as an example. You also have Lightning Fast, activates once per battle after causing 4 floods to enemy ships, so you get a plus 5% speed boost. So the only way you're going to get a flood with Andrew Cunningham is getting 4 floods on a submarine, or a mix of getting floods on the submarine, and let's say you rammed an enemy ship and you caused him to flood, something like that. Pretty sure you can cause flooding by ramming. So that's how that's going to happen. And then you have the equipment spoils. So this activates once per battle after destroying 2 enemy ships. You get another repair party. So you go from 4 repair parties to 5 repair parties once you secure 2 kills. So that's important to do, especially if the battle is raging on and for a longer period of time. And I've activated this a couple of times now. And this also activates even if you're playing operations as an example. His enhanced skills, he has a Consumable Specialist, which is just a faster cooldown time on the repair party. We don't have it here. Yeah, damage control enhances efficiency of consumables except for the damage control party and repair party. So this basically does nothing for us, right? So that's why it's crossed out. So it's not useful for us at all here on Devastation. So here on the screen, you're seeing the 21-point build I have been running. With this build, let's just see. I don't know where I landed in terms of my stats with the ship. So we've got 16 battles fought right now, 69% run rates, 2,649 XP. I've only destroyed up to 3 Warships. I think it's part of a challenge of kill securing when you have a longer reload time, and a destruction ratio of 4.4. And then most damage we've done so far is 243. And we're averaging 139,000, which honestly is, for this ship is a bit low in my opinion. On an average, I think it's okay. But just for this ship, like, there's a lot more we can be doing with it. And it's because I've had some really weird games. I've had games where I've had submarines, 2 submarines, and 5 destroyers. So it's like 7 ships right off the bat. You're not going to be able to farm for a lot of damage. And I had that happen a few times, which is really annoying. Another reason perhaps our Warehouse hasn't been so enjoyable lately for me. But yeah, so let's get into it. So 21-point build. I'll just walk you through it, and then I'll showcase you the second build option I think that you can do with this boat. So gun feeder negative 40%. This is for the shell switching time. So it's a 20.1 seconds. So let's say you've had you have high explosive, but then you see, oh, I think that ship might be going broadside. Then you can switch in the midst of your reload, and it'll be 20.1. So like even if you're at 18 second and you switch, then it's going to jump back up to 21.1 seconds if you're full health and you're not running adrenaline rush and that kind of thing. So yeah, I haven't been able to use this as much as I would want to because it feels quite brutal when it is that longer of a reload time compared to Conqueror. I think like with Conqueror as an example, when our shell switching time is 15.8, so that's literally almost a 5-second improvement, 4.5, 4.4, something like that. And it is noticeable, honestly. So again, I'm going to get into that. Grease the gears, 20% improving our turret traverse time, so that's why we're at the 43.1. Otherwise, we'd be like closer to 50. Very important to run. For a 6-point commander, I'd take Adrenaline Rush. I think it's very, very, very important on Devastation. I mean, I know some players don't like running Adrenaline Rush, but you have such a large hit point pool. You have 16 guns. You are going to be taking fires and that kind of thing. So why not improve your Adrenaline Rush, improve your reload time of your main battery guns, and you get a little buff on your airstrike armaments, secondary battery reload time, and continuous AA damage. And then with this build for a 10-point commander, I'd probably do the Fire Prevention Expert next. A risk of catching fire, negative 10%. Maximum number of fires, negative 1. So basically what this skill does is it reduces the fires on your ship. So if you're new to this, you have 4 fires set on your ship. Fire Prevention takes the 2 fires that would be set on your superstructure and makes it only 1 fire. So you're ticking for less damage. A lot of people are going to be focusing your superstructure, and you have a pretty large superstructure on Devastation. So hence, Fire Prevention is quite helpful if you're going for that full tank build. For a 14-point build, then I would do the Emergency Repair Expert to give you the 4th heal, and then plus 10% action time on your damage control party, so 15 to 16.5, and then plus 10% on the repair party, which I think is like, how did that work? I gotta see this. Yeah, 22 seconds for the specialized repair teams. And then after this, I'd probably do the Concealment for an 18-point commander. So that gets you down to 13.1. And then for 21 points, and then I do the Improved Repair Party Readiness. So this is where the 6th hero comes into play. So this activates every time your ship receives potential damage equal to 100% of the ship's base hit points. Your Repair Party consumable cooldown time will reduce by negative 0.8%. So you're getting that massive heal back off cooldown even faster. And then once you've reached 2 million potential damage, which you should regularly be doing somewhat. I mean, maybe 1.5 to 2, but I think I've already had over 3 million potential damage games. Then you'll activate the another repair party, right? So let's say you don't get the 2 kills, but you take 2 million potential damage. Then okay, you got your 5th heal, or vice versa, right? But it's possible to get a maximum of 6 heals on Devastation. Or if you ran Andrew Cunningham on Conqueror, and that's absolutely filthy, right? So when I said earlier, like with this build, I've had 2 games now. Well, I did one game, I took 296,000 damage, which is dented for a battleship in of itself, but then I did it again, and I did 299,000 potential damage that I took. Not potential damage, but actual damage I took. So I got these massive dreadnoughts, and I still had hit points remaining at the end of the game. So you're a pain to deal with when you go for this full tank, this full heal build, if you will. And I think the improved repair party readiness has more value than the basics of survivability, where here you're just putting out the fires and floods even faster, okay? If you really want this, then I could say maybe there's a possibility that you give up Consumer Expert, you take basics of survivability, and then I'd say Emergency Repair Specialist. But the other big build I want to hit on is talking about the skill Furious, because you can actually do this with the ship. And you can even see, I'm actually surprised, Wargaming has it recommended. And what this skill does is reduces your main battery load time for each instance of fire or flooding affecting your ship. The skill is half as effective for the second and subsequent instances of the fire or flooding, so it kind of diminishes after the first fire. So, one fire set on your ship, instant negative 10% reload time. 2 fires and a flood, or 3 fires, you're going to have a really strong reload time when you pair it with Adrenaline Rush. So this is kind of the typical, it's a countercultural build, if you will. So that means you're actually giving up Fire Prevention Expert, right? Because you're improving your damage per minute in the game, you're improving your reload time, right? So then you want to have fires, you want to have floods, but fires is more preferred, right? So you give up Fire Prevention Expert and take Furious. I'm going to test that build out following the Monday highlight video, where I'm going to showcase this build, because to me, Devastation can take it. Conqueror has a more difficult time with Furious, in my opinion, just because she doesn't have, she's a tier 10 battleship, but in terms of survivability, Conqueror is what, 87,000, and then maybe it's like 90,000 with the Charlie Kilo combat signal. But you have more hit points at your expense to spend, so I think Devastation can take it quite easily, actually, because the part of me that's kind of irked me with this build, I mean, it's a great build in terms of tank, and that is like, I'm wanting more from my main battery guns, and I've realized it's actually the reload time that's bothering me, where I like Conqueror a little bit better right now over Devastation. But it might be after I take Furious, maybe I like Devastation even more than Conqueror. So we'll have to see. So drop Fire Prevention, take Furious. Like, I might even just do it now for the sake of this video, we'll see. And then I would say give up Damage Control System Mod 2. This reduces the fire extinguishing time, puts out fires and floods faster. Drop this and go for Propulsion Mod 1. I think that that's doable with Devastation. So yes, your fires are going to last longer, but that's what you want, because you had this massive heal, this massive repair teams, right? So maybe I say screw it and we do it right now. Although I don't remember if I've already mastered skills for the other classes. No, I've not. Yeah, I'll do it for you guys right now. So either do this build, and maybe if you're starting off with Devastation, then like maybe this is the safer route to go. But if you have a good feel with Conqueror, I think you could just kind of dive right into this skill. So we'll master that. And then we're going to come in here. I'm going to demount that skill. And we're going to take Propulsion Mod. I don't remember what the maneuverability was. Yeah, you have a very large turning circle radius and a pretty big rudder shift time, but the propulsion tends to be a bit better overall, in my opinion. So yeah, so we managed to do that under 30 minutes. That's very good. So if you liked today's video, thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. So this coming week, we'll have the original build that I just first showcased on a Monday highlight. And then at some point next week or the week after, I'll see what happens, and I'll showcase this Furious build on Devastation. So, till next time, take care.